Alrighty, hello, Albert with Parting Pro here. Today I'm going to talk about something that I think is affecting every funeral home right now, and that is being able to run more efficiently and add precious hours back to your day. So in this presentation, I'm going to walk through how you can add 10 hours back to your week while improving family satisfaction. And this is an important idea because if you do it right, it will completely change the trajectory of your business and also your quality of life. So I wanted to make this very quick video since we're at a very interesting period of time right now. I think a majority of funeral homes historically haven't really put a lot of emphasis into uh, running more efficiently, but have been able to manage. However, a lot of our prospects and new customers have been feeling stressed really thin recently. Uh, People are telling me that they're working nonstop, working 7 hours a day or seven days a week with no breaks. The pandemic is causing a lot of changes to normal processes, and it's taking people time to adjust. More and more funeral directors and staff are being forced to quarantine, and that creates a lot of gaps at work as well. Sometimes families don't want to come in anymore, and you can't do things the normal way you usually do things. A lot of firms are actually getting so busy that they are having to turn away families for the first time. That's never a good feeling at all. So because of all these things are happening, I want to just make a real quick video and share my thoughts on this, on how Parting Pro funerals have been able to navigate through it. Since I'm making this video pretty quickly, I just have a few tech slides here, and I have some old slides from before, so this will be somewhat of a stream of consciousness discussion. I'll just start off by giving you a few examples of funeral homes that have been very successful at managing their time. Lori from Bowman Funeral Directors was able to streamline the way she collects information and signatures from families by working with Parting Pro, making it much easier for the families and saving her staff time about an hour and a half per case on paperwork and arrangements. Right. This made a huge difference in not only how quickly they're able to get information from the family back, but also the quality of their services because now they have more time to focus on the needs of the family. John from Scanlan, Cremation, and Burial has been able to scale from 0 to 40 cases per month in a period of about 6 to 8 months. Okay, he's currently able to serve over 40 families a month with himself as the only employee. Because he's so efficient, he's able to keep expenses low and invest in other parts of the business, like marketing. Right. Here's Bart from Philadelphia Cremation Society. He completely replaced his process of sending and receiving forms via email with Parting Pro, which allows for signature without any printing or downloading. He really likes the ability to see how far his families are on the paperwork as they're doing it, which results in better customer service that he can provide. He estimates he saves literally a work week's worth of time any given month, right? And he has a quote here saying it's life-changing because he literally saves an extra 50 hours that he can spend on any other parts of the business or just his regular life, right? So the question of this video is, how can you become more efficient while improving family satisfaction? I think another way to think about this is, how can you make things easier for your families? Because I think we should always think about making things easier, we should always think about everything in the aspect of the family, because if you can make things easier for them, things will naturally become easier for you. And the families will be happier, right? There's going to be less uncertainty, less questions to answer. You'll get information back faster. You'll get your documents signed faster. You'll get paid faster, and so much more. So when thinking about how to make things easier for your families, you can summarize into 3 simple steps. First, funeral homes need to truly understand their consumer habits and how things are changing. They need to also have a thorough understanding about the experience that they're giving to their families currently in all aspects. And then finally, after understanding this, they need to leverage technology to their advantage rather than avoiding it. So let's start with the first one, understanding families, right? And I think to understand your families, you need to keep an eye on how consumer habits are changing on a macro level. And I dive very deep into detail on this in other videos, but I'll summarize for now by saying your families expect to have an online experience in every aspect of their lives. That includes at the funeral home. Every industry has gone through some sort of technological transition, and the winners are always those who are able to adapt to their customer needs the fastest. And the funeral home is one of the last to be affected by this, solely, I believe, because of how late in someone's life they need to look for funeral services. But I'm telling you, the transition has already begun, and the average age of competency of people using cell phones, using technology, is also going up. So if you understand this, you know that you need to act pretty quickly, right? And I can definitively say that people pay attention to the experience you give to them, and that includes the experience you give to them when it's not in person, right? Most funeral homes are either ignoring or underestimating the importance of the experience that they give to the family when the family is not directly in front of them. And this is not good. A lot of funeral homes are seeing a change in the way their families interact with them. It might possibly be due to because of technology, like I said, and internet has made things so easy, so there's more shoppers. But it might also be maybe because people are moving around more, people are less brand loyal, people have less savings nowadays, they have different perspectives, they have different preferences now than before. So it's really important for you to acknowledge that these things are happening so you can actually do something about it. So that's step one, okay? Step two is where you want to really think about the process you're currently giving to your families. So it's a bit difficult to explain what I mean by this, but maybe you should think about comparing your process not to other funeral homes processes, but maybe to those of other businesses that your families may frequent nowadays. Okay? So a very easy example is, and I don't know how many times someone has told me this, which is a lot, but people will say to me, oh yeah, if I want paperwork signed, I'll just, email paperwork to the family. All they have to do is they download it, they print it out, they sign it, they fill it in, they scan it back in, and they email it back. And they'll describe that process to me as very easy. And I can tell you that if you compare this with, something that you were doing 10 years ago, yes, it can be considered very easy. But if you compare that to a modern business in 2021, this is definitely not easy. And it might not sound like a big deal, but because of this process, this funeral home is now creating a lot of extra work for itself. So for example, because of the extra steps it takes the family to fill out the paperwork and get it back, it takes them longer to get it back to you, right? And this may hold up operations depending on what paperwork that is. It's going to be more difficult for you to give directions on documents that because they're printing them out, and this leads to uncertainty and leads to more phone calls and more questions. This might also lead to more mistakes, which will then lead to more corrections. And because it's on paper, the corrections will take more steps to fix, which then takes more time for the funeral director, and then more time in turn for the family. And then there's a whole issue with organizing and checking all the paperwork to make sure it's right, checking all your emails to make sure you have everything. So it eats up more time from the funeral director point of view because it's adding extra steps for them. And then when families have questions, funeral directors don't really know what they're referring to. They can't really see anything and just have to guess what the family is talking about, which creates longer unnecessary conversations and lower satisfaction. And you can probably go down this rabbit hole forever. But the idea is, if you multiply this by the amount of times you're doing it, the amount of times you need paperwork signed, this adds to a lot of extra steps and expenses to the funeral home that are pretty unnecessary, right? And so you might want to go through this thought exercise with pretty much everything. How you answer price shopper calls, how you give families the opportunity to look at merchandise or additional services, right? How you collect payments, how you generate contracts to get signed, how you communicate with each other, and how does that affect your customer service. So there are a lot of things to consider, and the idea is you can see how all this are really small details, but they start to compound. So it's really important to understand these things from the family's perspective, right? A lot of times funeral homes will tell me, oh, my family can already do everything online, but they don't want to do it. Oh, we have our GPLs on the website that they can download. Oh, we have fillable PDFs on the website that they can download. We have pictures of our caskets online that they can look at. And then when we start digging into it, it's not actually really set up in a way that's very helpful to the family, right? And families don't use it because it's very poorly designed. And funeral homes don't really, or aren't really thinking about how it is from the family point of view in the lens that I was just describing, right? And this will bleed into your revenues. It'll bleed into how it affects your time. So I say when you're doing this exercise, you really want to make sure that you give it a really detailed look from the lens of your family. All right. Next here. So now that you've done your homework and you really understand what's going on a macro level, and you see everything from the point of view of your families, I'd invite you to begin thinking about using technology to your advantage. And what I mean by this is, I mean that if you understand your customers and what they want, you're going to want to be able to give it to them in a way that is easy according to them. And you can apply this 100 different ways to your business. But just as a random example, a lot of people tell me, hey, I don't want to put my pricing on my website because they're scared that people won't understand them or it'll scare them away. So they just want to have the families call them, and it gives them a chance to give them their pitch, right? And by that logic, it makes perfect sense to me. It's like, hey, you gotta call me for this information, and once you call, I got this informational pitch for you that this is the stuff you're gonna need, and it's also gonna increase your chances of doing business with me, right? So on the surface, it's like you're getting more chances to talk to people. However, if you think about it, I believe I can make the argument that there's going to be some number of people that go to your website and don't find the information that they're looking for, and then they move on. And I think I could argue that that's probably the majority of people, right? So this segment of people you never even get a chance to talk to or explain the value of your services might be pretty large. So maybe the problem isn't so much that you're deciding whether or not you want to show certain pieces of information or certain pricing, for example, but it's actually on how you show it and how you show the value of your services in the easiest way possible for the family to understand, right? Because you already have a pitch, you already understand what you want to tell the family. It's just the format of how you're telling them in this scenario is only on the phone, right? But you can get really creative at this. So for example, I made a video last year that has over 300 hours of view time. So essentially, I saved myself 300 hours over the last year from this one video that I created, right? So if you're effective at this, you'll now have more families calling that are more informed, a better fit for your services, and you can have much more productive conversations, right? So in this case, doing the exact opposite of what you were originally trying to do will actually provide you with better results. And this is just one very specific example, but you can apply this to almost every aspect of your business. Okay, great. So hope this helps. I wanted to give you a broader way to think about things rather than give you a lot of specific examples here. But if you'd like to have a more specific strategy session to your funeral home, feel free to fill out that quiz on our website, and we'll be in touch. All right, thanks, guys. See you next time.